Hello and welcome to Not That This, the pop culture talk show where I interview artists and influencers to find out their fool's gold and hidden gems, those massively popular things that they hate, and those unknown or underrated masterpieces that they love. My name's Geraint Evans, and don't worry, not even my mum can pronounce it. That's actually true, she's from Leeds. So, episode 6, very exciting. You can hear one of the options for the Not That This theme tune playing in the background. I want you to help me choose. I'll let you know how you can vote at the end of the episode. This is one of the interviews that I recorded at the Edinburgh Festival. I met up with Ben Norris, a spoken word artist, actor and writer, and the most recent winner of the BBC Poetry Slam. He's a very thoughtful man. I think I met up with him at a time when he was re-evaluating, to some extent, what it is to like and dislike certain kinds of art, which makes this a really interesting interview. We recorded in a little performer bar in Edinburgh, which is to say, you will be able to hear some ambient noise in the background. Here we go. Hello, Ben.
Hiya, you alright?
I'm doing well, mate.
Good.
What have you been up to?
So I'm here with a show that's not spoken wordy really, although I do little bits of spoken word in it, but it's a show called The Choir of Man, which is essentially a music show. It's a 9-part male voice choir, singing a real kind of range of stuff from like Adele to Paul Simon to traditional Irish folk music, background to kind of like 80s power ballads. It's a broad church in that respect, but it's basically a gig set in a pub with real working taps, and we serve beer to the audience. And
amazing, I'm in.
Yeah, and it's really good crack. Like I was saying to you before we started recording, that it's not maybe necessarily the kind of thing that I would have chosen to see if you'd have just shown me the poster, but doing it and being in it is a lot of fun, and seeing how much fun the audience have each night is really refreshing and you know, makes it really worthwhile, and also challenges a lot of my cynicism, which I'm sure we'll get to when it comes to like what is entertainment and what is art and what's worthy of an investment of time and money and what people like to watch. So that's what I'm doing, which isn't my normal kind of thing, but I do bits of spoken word like in between some of the songs to kind of introduce the guys, and they've commissioned me to write those small sections. So there's enough of me in it still to not feel like I've had to morph myself into an unrecognisable
You're not
being.
selling out.
No, but it's nice to be up here with a kind of bigger production as well. We're in assembly rooms on George Street, so 650 seater. It's a very new kind of fringe experience for me.
Yeah. I mean, usually it's quite hard going as a spoken word artist on your own in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Hey, just come see me. That's
exactly.
That can be a tough sell.
I was here with that very setup 2 years ago. With a solo show about me and my dad, which was good, I think, and I was very proud of it, and people seemed to enjoy it. But it was flyering every day, really trying to sell the show to people. And we had a 60-seater, and occasionally we sold out, and I was over the moon. But some days I'd wake up and we'd pre-sold 5 or whatever, so it was out onto the streets, really kind of slogging to get people in. So this is a completely different kettle of fish and lots of fun. But
great.
And I've also been doing the BBC Poetry Slam.
Oh yeah, which you won.
Which was cool, because I'd done it before. That was the only thing I was doing in Edinburgh, and I just came up for that, and I got to the final, but then went out in the first round of the final. And probably it's just a result of being a year better and whatever, but also I think there's something to be said for not thinking too much about it and not treating it like a slam, but just treating it like a gig, because I was doing so much stuff with the choir, and we were doing a lot of spots at different events and press commitments, and I didn't really have any time to think about it. So I just thought, okay, what poems do I enjoy performing, what poems do I like, and what poems also do I know right now, just kind of found a few minutes to have a little mumble under my breath, and then went and did it, and had the luxury of not being able to stress about it.
Well, that's great.
Which was great, actually.
I've had experience of comedy competitions in my youth, and that added extra little pressure, even though it's the thing that you love, the thing that you've created. Just that pressure of being judged.
Oh, the competition element. I never won a poetry slam when I was trying to win poetry slams.
Yeah.
When that was the purpose of my attending the event and participating was victory. I never won, and so I just went and treated it like a gig where maybe I would get to do one poem, maybe two, maybe three, but I would be with people that were increasingly becoming my friends and just try and not think of the competition element. And then ironically started winning loads of poetry slams, and it was so. I think just to try and treat it with like a healthy amount of disrespect, or rather just to try and redefine it in your mind.
Yeah, try and treat it like the thing that you always do, the thing that you love doing in the first place. I think is.
I can't imagine doing a comedy competition though. That fills me with genuine, because it's like your success is audible, as is your failure. Like if you don't make people laugh, but poetry, sometimes it's comic and you're looking for a particular reaction, but often it's not, and you can't hear somebody be moved, or you can't hear somebody rethink something, and so you can tell yourself, oh, that's it's a little bit safer. But comedy, I've a lot of admiration for you and anyone that does stand up or anything like that.
It's a terrifying art form, I think. Like I envy musicians, can hide behind the instrument a little bit.
Yeah.
Now what we want to do is find out what your fool's gold is. Like what's that bit of pop culture, any medium, can be as broad as you like, can be as specific as you like, that you just cannot stand.
So even a month or two ago I would have had a huge list for this, but now I'm kind of on a journey away from cynicism based on doing this show, that I thought would maybe be like, oh, it's a set of cover songs,
right?
But like people really love it, and we are doing something different, all male voices, and there's a quiet challenge to masculinity in there. So I think actually this show has more integrity than it might have done, and people are really enjoying it. And similarly, like I used to be super cynical about reality TV, and I still don't watch it myself, but now I realise that the people participating in it, for all that it's manufactured and structured, sometimes there's a genuine story of like from nothing to something when someone has a lot of talent, and if nothing else, like it entertains people enjoy it as an unwind from whatever day they've might had, and just to not kind of so I mean I would have put pop music in that, I would have put reality TV in that, but now I'm like so some pop music still. The one I'm definitely still like really vacuous, particularly lyrically vacuous pop music, when the words are completely meaningless, because a lot of pop now, particularly with kind of the rise of the politicization of Beyonce's music and things like that, I'm like, I've got so much time for this, it's incredible work, but there's some stuff out there, particularly from men, that like very, I don't know, I'm hesitant to use the word basic, but very, very kind of meaningless, simplistic, or actively misogynistic. That would be my big time kind of what are you doing? Listen to yourself. So a lot of, and commercial radio, when it's on, I do kind of have to just sit there and sort of breathe deeply. I think it's the whole noise of it, like also the syntax of the DJs, like first thing in the morning, that kind of like, good morning, and now I'm doing like, nobody has, stop pretending that you have this much energy.
It's 8 o'clock.
That's why I listen to a lot of Sean Keaveney on Six Music in the morning, because his sort of persona is one of human fallibility, extreme tiredness, and he's just very much there like, I'm so knackered, I've had my 4th Danish pastry of the day, so at any moment I'm going to have a spike, but then it will go again. And he kind of talks you through his lethargy with his job, with his life. Like, it's very endearing and funny and honest. And so mine would be like big commercial radio, really crappy pop music, that kind of tinny.
Is there a pop song in particular? Like, is there a proponent of this particular type of awful pop?
I'll expose myself right now as someone who cannot substantiate his hatred of the thing by not being able to name the one that immediately springs to mind. I had some recently, but then because they make me so actively kind of angry, or they just don't fulfill me in any way, the names just leave my head. So I'll be like, you must remember that as a good example of why you don't like pop music, and then it goes, because I just want to put things I like in my head. So I mean, maybe one will come to me, but
I'm trying to think. Like, I have a particular distaste for Pitbull, I think.
I don't think you're alone in that. But then I couldn't, because I dislike it so much, I'll turn it off so immediately that I couldn't sing you a single song. I couldn't. I've just seen the odd bit on on TV.
Yeah. Oh God, who's the guy? The one who, the really, really sexist one. A few years old, the university's banned it.
Robin Thicke.
Yeah.
With Blurred Lines. Yeah. That's the perfect example. What was annoying about that is when you first heard it, before you listen to the words, it's like, oh, it's got really catchy bass line.
Yeah, no, it's a good
it kind
pop
of
song.
fitted into the same category as like Uptown Funk, and came out at the same time as that, and Get Lucky, the Daft Punk song. It was kind of in that like that slightly funky kind of, you know, it's got a really good beat, and then you'd be like, oh,
hang on.
you're a rape sympathiser. That's what's happening here. Oh, that's not so funky anymore. So yeah, that's the perfect example.
Yeah.
But when that is coupled with like nothing even musically redeemable.
Yeah.
Not that it's redeemable at all, but I mean, before you heard the words, there was at least that you get that sentiment with crap music.
Yeah.
That's like the true bottom of culture.
Absolutely. And commercial radio specifically. So are we talking BBC? Are we talking
No,
Radio X?
commercial. So I don't listen to that much Radio X, but I think some personality. It's on a personality by personality basis. So I think some of the Radio X DJs are great, having known their other work. But I've never listened to any Radio X show since it became Radio X. It used to be XFM, right?
Yes,
was it born out of that? That's the same thing, yeah?
Yeah. I think they rebranded,
right.
and then for a while nobody on that show was allowed to call it XFM.
No, so there's a kind of hyper masculinity about some of the DJs on Radio X that is not great, but some of them are cool. But the Six music is mostly what I listen to. And so, but by commercial radio, I guess what I mostly mean is like, is it Absolute, and just the ones that have it used to be like when I was growing up in Nottingham, it would be like 96 Trent FM, like Trent FM.
Oh, okay, like so those little I had the Wave in Swansea.
Right, so there'd be equivalents all over, and there are some national wide ones that get you, and then they cut to like the local newsroom for the. But the ones that have a quota of, I don't know what it would be, 50 songs that they just have to play from the top 40 and the whatever, and you just don't get any rogue things or anything old unless it's a number one from back in the day that is like as part of like Golden Hour, but you know, they're just, and it's more the DJ's energy, because some of those songs are great. I don't hate them because they're popular, but it's the kind of the lack of personality on a lot of those stations. They're in a sort of sausage factory of what a DJ voice sounds like, and what just even the cadence of the sentences, they're all the same.
I absolutely know what you mean. Like, it's a weird, like, especially with those local ones, those smaller stations, and I wonder if they're sort of forced into a hole a little bit, you know, because they don't make a lot of money, I presume.
No,
they don't.
I wonder if they're even actively trained to like, this is what a DJ sounds like on this station, and this is what we need from you, which would be fine and would make sense. But because for a lot of people, I think it's how they expect a DJ to sound, and it's comforting and it's familiar.
Yeah.
It's too high octane. It's a little bit like when you go on a roller coaster, but like at a fun fair that's popped up at like a park, so not a roller coaster, but you go on like the Dodgems or the Waltzers, and there's that noise. It's like, put your hands inside the car, in the car, and like you're just like, please make it stop. It's like some sort of tortuous, I don't know. My spiritual age, I think, is like a 60-year-old man, and has been since I was about 15, and so I just find it all a bit. I just think I'd really like to have a coffee and read a book, and sometimes I'm up for that. But even when I go on nights out, I want to dance to like banging tunes that can be modern. Some of them are modern, but some of them are old, and what I don't like most is the vocal pitch of the person like linking it all together. So so I'm happy to dance to the pop music if the pop music's good. It's the kind of that voice, that onslaught.
It's a particularly I feel pressured, actually. I'm right there with you on this one, because why are you so happy at me?
Right, it makes me anxious. Like,
absolutely.
I've missed a memo about the human race, or more that just like it has such a kind of ferocity to it that it makes me think I should be doing everything I'm doing in my day twice as fast, on loads of drugs, and with a kind of like Disney smile on my face. I think that's what it is. It's so ruthlessly optimistic. And I don't think an overly cynical person, but I'm a poet and an artist, and so like it's my job, I think, to investigate things, to look around the corner of something or deeper into something, and see if we can unpack it a little bit. And they just absolutely are the complete opposite of that.
Yes.
Which again I respect, because sometimes you just want to tune into some like familiar tunes and not look into something if you've had a difficult day. But I guess my default is more investigation, more cynicism, more inquiry, and they just don't have that. So it's not for me.
I mean, that's fair. I find it interesting because you keep sort of adding caveats, like, and that's fine if, and you know, and I get it, like, you know, X Factor. I'm not a fan of X Factor, right? But that's a huge show for a reason. A lot of people love to sort of tune out to that sort of thing. And I think, do you think it comes with age, just going, oh, actually it's fine? Because when I was a kid, I used to hate pop music, all pop music.
I think it's different because I think X Factor has a really broad audience, including a lot of kids and teens.
Yeah.
But I think probably everybody has their like area of knowledge or of snobbery, and so probably even for the people who like X Factor, there will be another thing in their life that they know way more about than me. So mine might be musical, or mine might be, you know, pop cultural, and I say I don't really like listening to like overly sentimental covers of songs sung by people in a manufactured reality contest. But they might be like, well, listen, dude, like you purchase this type of product, but like actually I would never do that because it's inferior in all these other ways, and I can't, you know what I'm saying? There's probably areas that I'm like doing a kind of basic following, buying the cheapest thing or following a huge horde of people into doing a particular so I guess I'm just trying to be less judgmental of what people choose to do in their free time and how they switch off. And also because there's nothing wrong, especially in this day and age, as long as you're not advocating a negative political message, with entertaining people. And if that entertains people and brings them joy, then I'm in a place now where I want to celebrate that, and that's okay.
Brilliant.
And I think doing this show has helped with that. Because we are essentially doing different versions of covering songs, and people really like it and they have a great night. And last night a man came up to me crying after the show, a sort of 50-60-year-old man who said that he just loves music so much and the harmonies were so beautiful, and his daughter is a musician, and opened up to me in a way that normally I would expect from having, if you've performed like a highly personal piece of theatre or spoken word or but not from this show. And yet his response was overwhelmingly emotional, tears in his eyes, holding my hand and just really thanking me for an incredible hour of moving music. And I thought, you know what, like, I need to get out of my own way a little bit in terms of prejudging what people are going to think of a thing or what the world needs, because my opinions are not representative of everyone's opinion. So this has just been super helpful in that regard, and like blowing up my worldview a little bit. Yeah,
like an eye opener.
Right.
Well, speaking as a Welshman, we're all male voice choirs, like we're big fans, right. That's
what I love about Wales and Welsh masculinity is that they're not mutually exclusive. A love of music and a passion and emotion. For example, just look at them singing the national anthem in the rugby team versus like the English lads, because there's an apology in the English lads. Some of them don't sing it, or they're murmuring along because it's embarrassing to show heightened emotion for men, particularly masculine men, sports people. Whereas and the Mediterranean, like the Italians are really good at this. They'll cling on to each other, they'll be weeping, they'll be singing, and then they'll go out and they'll play an incredible 80 minutes of rugby or whatever it is. And so I think we could all use tapping into that
absolutely
thing a little bit more.
Do you know, I can't remember the author, there's a poem about Wales which I just absolutely love.
Is it Owen Shears? He was the Welsh Rugby Union Poet Laureate for a while. They were the first, or is it an older poem? Because he's a contemporary poet.
I think it's quite old.
Oh, okay.
So I can only quote the first verse, which every Welsh person can quote, because it gets sad after that.
Okay.
But it's to be born Welsh is to be born privileged, not with a silver spoon in your mouth, but with a song in your heart and poetry in your soul, and that is Wales. Like I think it's absolutely beautiful, and that poem continues then to talk about the lands and the suffering the Welsh people have had, and how we're a sort of sadly happy people.
Right. I have the greatest envy. I always talk about this. I'm from Nottingham. I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of the Midlands, and I'm always trying to put it on the map in the sense that often people talk about the north and the south, and there's no Midlands to a lot of people. So I'm always kind of trying to champion that. Yet at the same time, I don't feel like I have access to particularly rich folk history or folk tradition
Right,
there,
yeah,
and it definitely is there. But I've moved around a lot. I've lived many years away from Nottingham, and I was a kid then who wasn't interested in investigating the folk history of my region. So one of the things I really want to do now is try and tap into that, because I've always envied the Irish lads in the cast. Even when we sing the Parting Glass at the very end of the show, which is an Irish traditional, and the most beautiful song.
Yeah.
And what it means a lot to me now, because we've already given it context within the show, and also I just love singing it musically. But it's all their history with the song is incredibly rich. When they found out we were going to sing it, they were like, "Oh my God, I love," and I was just there like, I wish there was a song that would make me react like that. I go to football sometimes, but I'm not a season ticket holder enough for those songs to belong to me, and other things I don't. So there's a sense of ownership over music or over language or over land that I sometimes envy in cultures that have a more direct relationship to that kind of history, like the Celtic nations. So I kind of envy you that. I think you're always tapping into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a sad thing for the English as a nation. My mother is English, actually. We can put our flags on our walls, and you guys do that. It seems to have been appropriated by a certain kind of.
And I can understand why people react negatively to people displaying English national symbols, because they have for a long time been used to oppress people.
Yeah,
whereas, the Welsh dragon is a symbol of defiance of oppression rather than oppression. And so you guys can, I always think about this when I even just go to like European alpine towns. There'll be Swiss flags all down the high street. And instead of thinking, God, these guys are probably really racist, extreme nationalists, you just think, I'm in a Swiss town. Yeah. Whereas if you went to an English village and there was St George's crosses right the way down the high street, you'd be waiting for them to come around the corner with burning torches on horses and pitchforks and to drive anyone who doesn't look exactly like them out of town, and so I get it, but it does make me sad as someone who wants to belong to something but that doesn't want to have to caveat it so fiercely. So the national anthem is a great example of that. Like, it's weird, and the alternatives to that are kind of weird as well, because they're all sort of imperial celebration songs, and we're in a really interesting place historically, particularly now with Brexit as well. I mean, we'll look back on this time like this is the most complex re-examination of Englishness, because I think Brexit is largely an English issue in terms of looking at how the other countries. I know Wales voted to leave by a very small margin, but England's the thing that swung it, right? And like big time. And so I think an examination of Britishness and Englishness in particular is happening right now, and will probably happen for at least the rest of our lives. And so it's sad and interesting and also exciting if that re-examination comes with a chance finally for someone to celebrate who they are without seeming like they want to oppress or recolonise things, because that's difficult. And I would rather err on the side of no national pride and not presenting a thing that could be misinterpreted at all as hostility to an outsider than that. But that is a sad thing. So
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
We got deep there.
I know.
I think should we move on to something that you love? What's your hidden gem?
So there's a couple of poets that I want to give a shout out to. There's a Polish poet who lives in Birmingham called Bohdan Piasecki, who is amazing, and he's not kind of in the poetry scene, he's not under the radar. I mean, he works a lot and that's his job, but I would love for him to reach more members of the general public, as it were. He is extraordinary. There's a kind of an ongoing debate in the poetry world about the difference between page and stage poetry and performance poetry and the written word, and that is kind of slowly finally being eroded, because you get a lot of spoken word artists who write amazingly well and it would read brilliantly on the page, and you get a lot of page poets who are great at performing live, and so thankfully there's not so much of it, because there used to be quite distinctive camps that had some genuine and some manufactured hostility towards each other, but it was still there, and now that's going on. Bodhan is the perfect example of someone who does that, who's a brilliant performer. He always performs by heart and with a real relationship with the audience, but writes commissions for people that often are considered very literary and commission page poets, and written down, it's beautiful and works really well. And also he's writing in not his first language. He's Polish, and his second language isn't even English, it's French. He's writing in his third language when he writes in English, and sometimes there are lines of Polish in there that creep through. Sometimes he performs entire poems in Polish to an English audience as part of a largely English set. And the in the same way that when you watch a foreign film, you sometimes can read exactly what's going on, or just read the musicality of a moment, even if you don't have subtitles. His poetry in Polish is the same kind of like thrilling musical experience, and performed with such verve that you feel like you know, if not exactly what's going on, you're there in a kind of atmospheric moment with him. And he's just so bloody lovely, but he goes there so well and with such nuance that I think it's something people need to hear. So he would be that. And then there's a comedian I want to mention called Zoe Coombs Marr, who's an Australian kind of much celebrated, award-winning, and increasingly getting a profile over here, but she's still pretty kind of alternative, I suppose you would say. Like, she's not going to be on Mock the Week anytime soon, probably. And she's brilliant. It's all very meta, it's all very kind of self-investigative in the way that Stuart Lee does that sort of examining his own comedy and the audience's response and the public response to his own comedy within the comedy. She's so good at that. But also with a kind of feminist and gay angle, and she's brilliant. She does this whole drag show as a character called Dave, which is a comment on misogyny in Australian stand-up, and it's just like terrible drag with like a really awful monobrow and some kind of bristly prepubescent facial hair, and it just descends into like absurdity, but all the while kind of commenting on like what male stand-ups are allowed to get away with and what people think's funny, when actually it's just so derivative. And I can't paraphrase it because it's so clever. And she's doing a show at the moment called Wild Boar, which is on at the Traverse.
I've not seen it. I've seen the posters.
If you've seen the posters, you'll have seen what they've done. It's a comment on the critical response to the work of 3 female stand-up comedians, one of whom is Zoe. And they all read reviews of their own work and others' work out loud, with their naked arses on a table, and they're bending over, so they're literally talking out their arses, and you're like, okay, this is funny, and I kind of got it now. And then it just keeps blowing up that concept, like the curtains pull back, and further upstage is a massive trestle table with 3 huge arses on it, and it just becomes this kind of Monty Python-esque, ridiculous, but all the while politically so on point. They've kind of written this show that's like impossible to review because it's about reviews, which I kind of admire as well. They've obviously got a lot of reviews, it being the Fringe, and it's quite a high profile venue. So on the poster they've put all the reviews they've got, not just the good ones, but from 5 stars from The Guardian right down to 1 star from The Times, 2 from The Telegraph, and it's just the perfect, again, because they're so that's the whole point of it. And I just love them, and I love her, and I think she's fantastic, and I urge anyone who thinks that we don't have any further to go in the UK in terms of gender equality and similar things, because they those people are out there, to go and see her work. There's loads of other stuff that they should see also, but Zoe particularly is very, very good at commenting on that, and very, very funny.
I mean, there's an amazing wave of sort of Australian female comics at the moment who are just all absolutely smashing.
Well, I haven't seen her work yet, but I keep getting told, and I'm quite good friends with people who are involved in her production, but to see Betty Grumble, the sex clown, who does this kind of quite confrontational but amazing show that I need to see, but I haven't made it over yet because it's right after hours, so one day I will go, but I need to leg it, so I need to be quite prepped. But I've heard she's amazing, and she presents quite extreme feminist views in a way that makes them sort of palatable to people who maybe would be opposed to. I don't know, I'm paraphrasing what I've been told by other people, but just to agree with you, basically, that there seems to be Well, particularly because Australia's having a difficult moment with marriage equality, and they've just said they're going to have a referendum on that, which is going to cost the taxpayer millions or billions of pounds. Well, another kind of needless bullshit.
Have they not learned anything about referenda?
Right. So yeah, I think there's a justifiable kind of anger, because that just happened like the other week.
Right.
All the Aussies up here that want to comment on that are commenting on it hard. Yeah. And it's quite fresh, and so yeah, it's a really great time to be watching those guys do their work, even though their work's coming from a place of absolute outrage and sadness. They're smashing it.
Brilliant. Right, I think what we do at the end here is just some little quick fire questions.
Awesome.
So your best and your worsts. I'll add a poem in for this one as well. So we'll start with that.
Oh God.
Your favourite poem?
God. Okay. I mean, there's so many. Let's say one of Bodhan's then, because I've mentioned his work. He has a poem called It's Almost Certainly Impossible, which is an amazing kind of exploration of Polish history and how it relates to his family and the way we look at statistics. That's all I'll say about it. It's amazing. Check it out.
Alright, okay, cool. What's your worst poem? Or what's the worst poem to you?
Oh, God. I mean, there's this famous Scottish poet who wrote a poem about the River Tay Bridge disaster that's always kind of like paraded out as the worst ever poem. There are some spoken word artists that I'm not massive fans of, because I think that they are, I don't know, they make quite reductive work that people often cite when they say they don't like spoken word, and they're kind of making it, they're putting barriers up to people getting into spoken word, but like we probably have tons of mutual friends, so I'm not going to name them.
Yeah, that's fair. Alright.
But hey, yeah, it's you know, each to their own type thing.
Yeah. Okay, something a bit easier then. Favourite TV show?
Favourite TV show? I thought Fleabag was amazing. I'm just going to say that as the thing that, I mean, favourites, it's like these things change every day, every second, mood dependent, but Fleabag was amazing, so let's go with that.
All the work of Phoebe Waller-Bridge is amazing. Worst TV show?
I don't know if it's the worst, but just because it's in my mind right now, like, I really, really don't like Mrs. Brown's Boys, but with the caveat of I appreciate that people find it. I really don't like, more so than this, I can't watch like a Love Island or a Bachelorette. That kind of, it used to be on in my old house quite a lot, and again it's fine, like people would watch it to unwind, but I would just like not. And The Maid in Chelsea, it just really is not for me. Yeah, that's fair. Favourite movie? Her. Maybe with Joaquin Phoenix, which is extraordinary, or Any Day Now, a lesser known kind of amazing film about a gay couple trying to adopt a child with Down syndrome in San Francisco in the 70s, which is amazing. Or Birdman was extraordinary.
Birdman,
those are the three that are in my head at the moment.
Okay, great. Your least favourite?
I'm terrible at this because I just don't watch stuff that I hate, and if I'm not enjoying it, I just turn it off. Probably I won't have watched it. It will be out there, but it will be one of the like.
Mine's Garfield 2.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think. Do you know what? Madagascar 3 really pissed me off because I'd stuck with Madagascar like really loyally. I really liked it. I really liked Madagascar 1. I liked Madagascar Escape to Africa. You know, I was there for that. And then Madagascar 3 broke its own rules, because I'm fine with talking animals because you've created a world where that's a thing, but you still have like the basic rules of physics still apply. Except when you get yourself into a slight plot hole and then they can like jump off laser beams, and I was like, right, I'm done here guys, this is bullshit, I'm sorry, you've taken it too far. So yeah, that was annoying.
Fair enough. Superhero, favourite superhero?
Probably Spider-Man, but maybe that's just because it's in my mind now because of the newest one coming out. But I quite like the ordinariness of Peter Parker. I'm quite jealous of Tom Holland, like we're similar age. So I'm like, could have been me. Couldn't, but you know, he has an extraordinary kind of acrobatic history that I don't have. But maybe that. But I'm not a massive. I've not really like consumed many superhero films, or wasn't a big reader of comics as a kid. So like, it's not really in my life. Well, I'm still going to ask you what's your least favourite one? I don't know, maybe Batman, but that's also probably, it's difficult to separate the superhero character and the films that have been made and the problems with them or the sameness of them, and I don't think I dislike Batman. I mean, he's interesting because he has no actual powers, he just has tons of money and a big chip on his shoulder. Absolutely. So Yeah, I can't really answer this with much nuance,
that's
so
fair enough,
sorry. Yeah.
What else do I do? Book? Novel?
I really like Patrick DeWitt. Again, these are just like recent things that I've really enjoyed. But he wrote a novel called The Sisters Brothers, which was this brilliant. It's just announced they're going to adapt it into a film with, I think, Joaquin Phoenix and Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's about these two cowboys who are brothers with the surname Sister.
Right.
So the Sisters Brothers, and they one of them's a bit useless, possibly has learning difficulties, and the other one's kind of ruthless and sort of like the head of them. But it's narrated from the point of view of the former, and it's just so funny and endearing and brilliant and sort of like slapstick, but also like a great kind of historical comment on the gold rush. They're kind of it's during the gold rush time, and he has a really shit horse, but he loves the horse so much, and so he should really ditch it and get a new one because it constantly almost gets him killed because it's kind of lame and slow and useless. But he really loves it. It's called Tub, I think, and just all his relationships with Tub. Yeah, that's lovely. I love that.
Great
book.
And your least favourite novel? Well, you don't even have to have got through it. Those are
right. This is it. I picked up 50 Shades of Grey.
Wow.
Just to read a chapter so I could try and justify my hatred of it, and I wasn't that impressed. Yeah, at the same time, I appreciate it. That said, I feel like if you want some eroticism in your life, go and seek out something that's genuinely erotic, rather than like pseudo-erotic and arguably with a really, really deplorable kind of subtext of violence against women and abuse. And the fetishization of like extreme male wealth and power. I don't think it was necessarily the healthiest thing that could have consumed the nation at that moment, but it says a lot that it was the thing that consumed the nation. But anyway, I wasn't very impressed with the prose. And Dan Brown, just because it's trendy to not like Dan Brown, but for like reasonably good reason. Anyway,
all right, we'll just do one last question.
Okay.
If someone was to write or make a story of your life, what medium would it be in?
Oh, wow.
And what would you call it?
Jesus. Well, I mean, one always imagines the film of one's life because that's the cliched version of that question. But maybe it would be more interesting to have a play. It would probably, the title would have to relate in some way to like the Midlands and middle and being like kind of ordinary and trying to like justify having a public profile as an artist and having something to say as a straight, white, cisgendered, reasonably middle class man from the West, because I'm obviously still pursuing this career, so I must believe that I have something to say, but it's about using that platform to try and make other people's lives better and enrich our world in general. So it would probably need to be called something like Middleman, but like not that shit. But that's not for me to do if I'm not the one making it.
No, that's fair.
Good question though. Hard question, you bastard.
I do apologise. That's great, we're done. Thank you very much, Ben.
Absolute pleasure, man.
Wow, okay, so that was Ben. I really loved that interview because it tapped into something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. In that, art is for the people who consume it in many ways, and sort of if anyone is getting something from it, I'm not sure it's actually fair to be critical of that enjoyment. Of course, that sort of goes against the nature of this podcast, but what I'm referring to is the audience, not necessarily the art itself. We can critique what has been made, and I think we should, but I feel uncomfortable now critiquing people for enjoying it. Ben Norris is actually performing his solo show, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Family, on the 13th and 14th of October in Theatre Clwyd, up near Mold in North Wales. If anyone up there wants to see some fantastic spoken word, go out and do that. My wife is actually from North Wales, so I'm aware of how bleak that can be. So go and get some art in your life. Outside of the things that my guests are doing, I don't believe in advertising for this show. So if you want to keep it going, if you want to support the podcast, you can do that at thatthispod.com. Now, if you want to help me choose the theme song for Not That This, you can do that in one of three ways: leaving a comment on a donation, reviewing the show on iTunes, or sharing it on social media, tagging me in at thatthispod. There are 5 songs to choose from. They were played in episodes 1 to 5 and will now be repeated in episodes 6 to 10. All you have to do is include one of these 5 words in your comment, review, or share. Ocelot for the music in episodes 1 and 6, Tiger for the music in episodes 2 and 7, Thrush for episodes 3 and 8, Fox 4 and 9, and Falcon for the music in episodes 5 and 10. The more creative you can be with those words, the better. You can also email me at geraint@thatthispod.com. That address is also on the website. In the next episode, I talk to an icon of the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, the most feared comedy critic in all the land, Kate Copstick. I'll catch you then.